Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Restaurants Canada and Rationale webinar, Adapting to Takeout, Thinking Outside the Delivery Box. My name is Roberto Sargiu, Director of Marketing and Communications here at Restaurants Canada, and I'll be your moderator today. The COVID-19 pandemic has forced more restaurants than ever before to rely on off-premise ordering options to keep their doors open. Even kitchens that have never before focused on takeout are now having to take their dine-in focused menu and figure out how to get it to their customer's door. However, we all know it isn't as simple as taking those same menu items and stuffing them in a takeout box. There's a lot of strategy required to master the art of maintaining food quality with takeout. Today, we'll speak to different chefs from different food service industry areas and hear firsthand about their experience in transforming traditional menu offerings into a pandemic-friendly takeout menu. They will highlight many of the learnings they have gathered from this challenging year and discuss best practices that any restaurant can use to strengthen their takeout offerings. This webinar will provide insights into how to best streamline your menu, what to look for when testing a takeout menu item, what kitchen practices can help you improve efficiency in the kitchen during high order times, and menu inspiration for future takeout options. Now, before we get started, just want to let you know that you can submit questions by typing into the questions area of the control panel. You may send your questions at any time during the presentation. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available in a few days, and participants will be sent a link to the webpage. Finally, if you'd like to follow along online, you can do so at Twitter at RestaurantsCA, as well as catch our Instagram at Restaurants Canada. So as we mentioned, for at least the foreseeable future, takeout's probably here to stay for a bit. Love it or hate it, as a restaurant owner, having to accept the fact that it is a viable revenue stream is still tough for a lot of owners and managers to adjust to, especially for fine dining restaurants. But as cold weather approaches, and I know here in Toronto, I think they called for 5 to 10 centimeters of snow tomorrow, it bears a lot of thought to readdress all the aspects of takeout. Today, we'll be speaking with a panel of chefs from different areas of the food service industry. Each of these chefs have had their unique experience with facing off-premise menus, especially this year with the pandemic. Chef Kevin Pellissier, who is the National Corporate Chef at Rationale Canada, Daryl Nemtu, who is the Business Development Chef from Charlotte Foods, and Chef Ryan Lister, who is the Chef de Cuisine at Liberty Commons, which is a brew pub from the O&B brand located in Liberty Village here in Toronto. We will turn over the chefs in a little bit to give you a chance to introduce themselves and to tell their story. But first, let's kick it off with some facts around takeout. In 2019, on-premise orders accounted for more than half of total restaurant sales. In April 2020, they dropped down to 4%. Even before the pandemic, delivery and takeout were the fastest growing sales segments. Between 2016 and 2019, delivery sales from restaurants had soared more than 85%. Now that we're deep into a second wave with restrictions on dine-in across the country, these numbers have even more pressure behind them. Even with all the extra pressure surrounding off-premise dining, customers' expectations are still high. They still want and expect high food quality, delicious and flavorful menu options. They also want it to be visually appealing. This is regardless of the fact that the food has probably been sitting 20 to 30 minutes and had to travel to its final destination. And I think we can all speak to, please, no soggy fries. Now, before we kick off our panel discussion with the chefs, we're going to jump into the Rationale Test Kitchen with Chef Kevin. Kevin, let's get your webcam on there. Beautiful.
There we go. Good afternoon, Robert.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm good. It's an exciting time right now, and we're here in the Rationale Test Kitchen to talk a little bit about how to solve some of the challenges of takeout. So what we've done today is we've worked together with Chef Daryl to come up with a menu, items that can be executed quickly and simply, but with the highest quality. So I'm actually going to show you some of the prep and some of the finished product. And we're going to box this up, and then we're going to grade it in about 30 minutes from now. Because what's really important, and you mentioned it, is that when you're making takeout, we want to make sure that the quality lasts all the way to the end customer. So on the menu today, we've prepped some great grains from Shalit. We have our rice and peas to go with the jerk chicken. We've got a beautiful tabbouleh style quinoa. We've got some pre-grilled salmon and chicken, and of course, some vegetables. And we saw the picture of the burger and fries, so I've cooked up using our new iVario Pro, a good old cheeseburger. And we're going to plate this 2 ways. Right now, I'm going to start pulling the food out of the iCombi and the iVario Pro and show you what we have to pack up. So when we get into the delivery, one of the nice things is to be quick and easy. And so all of our cook times today are 6 minutes or less. This is really important when it comes to those delivery pickups that are going to be there in 10 to 12 minutes. We want to be able to execute quickly. So I've got my jerk chicken with rice and peas and some vegetables. My grilled Mediterranean salmon. Some steamed vegetables. And some of the quinoa. Now, what's nice is that where we're able to use our technology and where we've really helped to streamline some of the kitchens is by being able to combine more things together at the same time. And that's been really important. We don't have a full lineup of fryers and flat tops and grills cooking here. We're really reducing the size. It allows me to be more efficient. It allows it to be one-person delivery situation here. And if I go over to the right side, I'm even cooking the fries. And by cooking in the iCombi Pro, we're not going to have any oil pickup. So we have a healthier fry that's going to travel a lot better. We want to make sure we have those crispy fries at the end. We're going to test those out. So I'm going to start to box up all of these items. And as I said, we collaborated with Chef Daryl to talk about some of the products and the whys. Maybe Daryl can talk about our rice and peas and our tabbouleh and why we chose some of these dishes.
Thanks, Chef. I appreciate that. The reasoning behind and the why factor is trying to really utilize the Shalit style products with our partners, and these partners being for the spice blends that we use today is our shawarma seasoning and our jerk seasoning from Chef Paul. We've had that relationship with Chef Paul for over 25 years now in Canada, and the reason why is it brings actual technology to the spice blends, as it brings a heat blended technology and that real big depth of flavor. So as you're doing that first cook, the spice really permeates within the proteins, attaches to the fats within to have that base, but also you don't need to cook it longer, or during that finishing process that you just spoke of. We truly have the ability there to keep that flavor and drive it forward. With utilizing
right now.
Excellent. With utilizing our pre-cooked brown rice now and tricolor quinoa, it reduces that labor, right? It takes that time aspect that I'll speak of in a little bit out of the equation, and you just need to rehydrate and use some really good quality broth to help that move forward and to have that fluffiness. And you know, to speaking to the whole takeout premise, having dishes that work for takeout really, you know, set you up for success. So taking that time to pick the right styles and items for your menus is imperative as well. What are you adding right there, Chef?
So I've got our Mediterranean salmon, and this was done with a shawarma seasoning. It's got beautiful aromas, and we finished that off with just some fresh steamed vegetables. Again, first dish. What's nice too is that the salmon was pre-cooked, chilled, and our service time is 3 minutes. And with a sturdy grain like this, it's going to travel really nicely. So we're going to see what this box looks like in about 30 minutes. Here I have our jerk spice chicken. So again, we rub that chicken, like you said, we got that great pickup of flavor. And again, we want to make sure nothing's diluted. We've also made a beautiful jerk spice marinade to go with it, and our rice and peas. So again, 2 dishes that are going to travel very nicely. Again, these could look great on the plate. However, we also have to think about, you know, when they get banged around. Both of these are going to travel very nicely. Next up, I'm going to do up our fries and burgers here, and we'll see how that works out.
Perfect. perfect.
So the burgers.
Oh, sorry, chef. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go.
So for what we're going to serve on the side with these French fries, and fingers crossed, and I know the iCombi will ensure that we don't have any of those soggy fries, but just to elevate it to the next level, we can always serve it with a delicious sauce, be it a gluten-free style gravy, or take it to that next level and serve it with our Canadian-made veal jus that just takes takes that poutine or that side gravy to the next level, and keeps a little heat within that takeout box as well too.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that we talk about, and we hear a lot, is again, it's that travel. Now, we've all had the burger that's wrapped in the paper, the bun is soggy, and everything else. And as we've spent a lot of time working with our different customers, and they're saying, you know, how do I avoid this? Something as simple as making sure that you separate the bun from the patty, keeping the cold with the cold, the lettuce, the tomato, the onions, and do that, build your own. Again, it can be a simple thing that makes sure that your product travels very well. So I'm going to pack this up here. We've got our fries, got our burger, and all of these are going to go into the Cambro. We're going to see how these work out in about 25 to 30 minutes now. We're going to taste the results. And we're going to send it back to Roberto now, and we're going to start the panel.
Awesome. Now, is there any way you can ship those to me, because those look delicious already?
I believe there's a few different delivery options available right now. I don't know if it's Kevin delivers, but we'll start charge a surcharge for you.
Perfect, perfect. All right, moving into our panel, if I can please ask, let's get everyone on the screen here. Beautiful.
Okay.
So, as we get started, you know, there's a few questions I'm sure that we have here, and we really want to talk to, you know, each one of your experiences. You know, let's start with you, Chef Kevin. But your role and how takeout menus became front and center.
So in my role as corporate chef, we support all of our customers, whether it comes to programming, ideation, menu development. And right at the very start of this, we started hearing the ask of changing operators to want to go to a ghost kitchen or a delivery type model. And it was really trying to figure out how can we react quickly. And what we've seen with a lot of our different customers is sometimes they had to look at their whole scope of menu, and do they have to make a shift? Do they have to change the way they serve? If you've got a great brand and you have brand recognition, you may not have to serve your 4-star menu. You may be able to actually change it. One of the great opportunities I saw is a customer that was traditionally a fine dining restaurant went to doing barbecue, being able to do something more comfort, and it was something that could be executed by 1 or 2 people using the rationale. So we've spent a lot of time collaborating. How can they better use the equipment, better become more efficient in their kitchen? As you saw, I was doing 4 different dishes at the same time in the iCombi Pro, and this allows one person to manage 5, 6, 8 different takeout items at the same time. So again, labor became such an important part of this as well.
Awesome. And same thing to you, Chef Daryl.
Well, sorry about that, Roberto.
No.
What we truly want to do is deliver that on-trend flavor, right? And that's the one thing that we truly try to focus on, is keeping things on trend and still traditional as well too, but without compromising that quality. You know, with less time, less resources, we showcase and we try to help our customer base in building menus, building ideation, right, doing that testing, and working with great brands like Rationale to bring that to the forefront, but you know, keep them within current menus as well too.
Yeah. And finally, Chef Ryan, over to you. You know, your role and how takeout menus became front and center.
Yeah, it was pretty wild this year. I mean, we're normally set up to be a big restaurant serving lots of people coming in to drink lots of beer. So in the summertime, it was trying to balance both of that. But to begin with, it was figuring out what everyone said, trying to figure out the items that travel very well, but also keeping our identity, what we are, and not straying too far from it. We maneuvered around that by starting a pie shop. It's something that I'm passionate about, and it's something that travels very well that people can then cook at home. So we were trying to figure out ways that it wasn't just hot food coming to them. It was maybe picking up business through them buying stuff they can cook for themselves. So it will be at its best when they cook it fresh. It was tough, man. There's a lot of things to pay attention to in this time. So supporting local farmers was huge. Trying to figure out how we could still do that whilst produce takeout food. It was big. What else did? Yeah. Hope that answers the question.
So, I'm going to roll into my next question since I got you. You talked about some of the pivots you had to do in terms of, takeout menu, what travels, what doesn't travel. You're a pub, all of a sudden you're doing something different. People are drinking beer, not necessarily, and getting takeout all the time. What was your biggest learning through all of this?
Oh, geez, that's a tough question. The biggest learning, I guess, was to identify what people wanted at home. Like myself, I was ordering a lot at home, so I would order from many different restaurants and finding out what wasn't so good. Like the burger is probably one of the toughest things with fries to get home, right? Like, soggy fries, baby, soggy fries. But we found that stuff, maybe like lower and slower cooked braises, and the pies worked amazing for us. So figuring out stuff that just would make people really happy at home was huge. Like taking a look at what's our most popular and what's our most popular over that first 2 or 3 months. And then going back to the drawing board and changing it up a little bit. But takeout is really tough. So the biggest learning was for sure just looking at data and seeing what people were clearly the trend was that they were ordering every day.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know if you saw the same, we saw people going back to some of those more comfort foods. And did you see the same in your restaurant?
Yeah, totally. Especially with our barbecue, like we really didn't want to stray away from having our wood grill and our smoker working. It's a huge part of our identity, and it's very expensive to keep it going, but we didn't want to lose that. So people buying lots of ribs, like people loving ribs. They travel well, brisket, jerk chicken, like you're doing in the kitchen there. Stuff that travels great with maybe like colder sides, like the potato salads and coleslaws and salads and stuff like that. Less fried foods for sure.
I think, you make a great point in terms of your identity. Chef Daryl, what was your biggest learning? Did you see a lot of similarities, and how do you not lose your identity, for example?
Yeah, from being a classically trained chef myself, not a sales guy, it's tough for me, right? Because my heart goes out to all the restaurateurs, all the banquet halls, everyone that are brothers and sisters in arms, and it's the time reduction, right? It's less staff in kitchens. Kitchens are not traditionally socially distanced, right? That's not the way that they're set up traditionally, right? And that the way that they're run. But and also, that the team member sickness, right? If someone gets sick, it's really tough, especially if it's within that core or in that core style positions. And truthfully, you still need to produce. You still need to have that food going out the door. Customers are still wanting and still paying, right, for these takeout meals, and they need to be the best quality. So loop it all together. It's that time reduction and that alteration in mindset. That was the most difficult part for myself in my role in trying to find solutions for our customers and our partners within the field that we're really struggling. So it's just trying to pivot with them and listen. That's the big thing right there, and try to find solutions as best as possible.
Yeah, I think you're bang on, in understanding. I think nobody really understood the first couple of months of this whole thing, how it affected everything. So, I think listening was big in that. And I'm sure, Chef Kevin, same thing to you. I'm sure you guys had to do a ton of listening to figure out, okay, how do I help? Oh, I think your mic's off there, Chef.
There you go. My producer in the background was late on that one. I'll take care of that later. What we really found is people were starting to call us and say, okay, I have a new situation. My kitchen is shut down. I have your equipment. What can I do? And I really like the way that Ryan's team did it. They weren't afraid to try something. They banked on, their name, their brand, and we spent a lot of time working with customers. Said, what are you good at, or what can we be good at if you can market it the right way? And doing a pie shop was such an innovative way of thinking about it. Is build your recognition. You already have that brand loyalty, so being ready to change. The other thing that we had to really think about, and I touched on it right at the beginning, is what does it look like as chefs? We all want to have that beautiful plate presentation. We're garnishing, but that translation from plate to box is such a big step. And the chefs could probably attest to it as well. Is that what we see on the plate? We take so much personal pride in. We know it's going to get banged around. So we really had to grade ourselves and help our customers. Doing the testing and taking 30 minutes and putting the stopwatch and going, is that the right product at the end of 30 minutes? Is it going to carry? Does it have enough sauce, flavor? And what changes do you have to make? But I think those two things is really identifying what can you be good at, or just starting something completely new was a real nice thing to see. And I've seen some great brands do it. And at the same time, just being able to, pare down your menu or just do what you're best at. Pick those top 10 hits and go with that for your takeout menu.
Yeah, I think going with that, to jump in quickly as well, one of the toughest things all year was trying to cook with your two biggest senses in cooking not being a part of your day-to-day, right? So being able to put items on the menu that you don't constantly have to taste and take your mask off or smell, having stuff that's a bit more like you can do it all in the prep, so that when the chits come through on the machine, it already tastes good because you did it all before you were even open. And I mean, it was tough. Like, you can't smell anything. It's my biggest thing in the kitchen is smelling things, and you can't smell much through those masks, especially when there's smoke in the kitchen as well. So,
and you know what? I think
absolutely, and I think. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to move forward, but no, please finish.
No, and I think we've all kind of said those big, strong, bold flavors were such an important part. And us choosing jerk, like Ryan said, that was one of his dishes. Smoke has such a big, strong smell that even if you don't taste it every single time, you've dialed in your rubs, you've dialed in your spices, your sauces, and you're kind of proud that that's going to go, even though we didn't get that last teaspoon plastic taste test. So that's where we focused on a lot of our development today, and that's exactly why we chose some of the dishes that we did.
No, that makes sense. I want to go to you, Chef Brian, real quick. How has Liberty Commons pivoted their menu to promote takeout orders? You talked about, it's almost like trying and failing, trying not to stray too far from your identity, but also leveraging, like Chef Kevin said, that brand loyalty to say, hey, we're going to introduce pies.
Yeah. I mean, our pivot was mostly that, to be honest. Like, we just really wanted to get something that we knew. Again, it goes down to what we were saying before as well about the amount of staff you can have on during the day. So it was having items and menu items that you can prepare through the daytime whilst you're doing the service as well. And also finding the correct vessels, like the right takeout containers that keep the food hot and the food fits in it good, whereas also being responsible and not using all plastic. I mean, there's a few places that I love the food and I order the food from there, but it would all turn up in plastic and, all this waste. So it was really pivoting to find that fine balance in our entire company, not just at Liberty Commons. It was truly a team effort from the whole O&B team. But yeah, pivot wise, like, the pies went great for us. And just like Kevin said as well, shortening our menu. Like, we normally have a very large menu, maybe 40 to 45 items. We really narrowed it down to, first time round, we narrowed it down to about 20, 25. And then this time round, if you take the pie shop out of it, because that's all frozen and ready to go, you just have to label it and send it. We really narrowed it down to about 15 items because it's tough pulling that off during service, right? I learned that probably from ordering through some other restaurants as well. Some of the higher end restaurants, like Alouette, like they had 7 7 items on their menu,
Yeah.
right? And it's, yeah, that kind of sucks because you want to order all of those things they normally have, but you have to be realistic at what you can achieve, and what dishes will actually travel. That is the biggest thing. Is there's no point having something on the menu that when you put it in the box, it's great, but by the time it gets home, it's garbage. You know, that's a real shame. It's a waste of your time at that point almost.
No, and you hit on something which I was actually going to ask you really quickly. Was you talked about pivoting, and then you talked about pivoting again. How many times did you actually have to pivot your menu, and why did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it just everything changed all the time, right? It wasn't just okay, you can just do takeout. It was like, okay, you can do takeout and you can have the patio. Okay, you can have the patio and you can have indoor. Actually, no more indoor, just the patio. No, just back to takeout. Actually, you can have it's just, it was so many different. We found as well, takeout's one thing, but then setting ourselves up for what people want to eat on our patio was a whole different thing. That was a very different thing. I'm sure we can talk about it later, but yeah, so yeah, it was just constantly pivoting all year to whatever the government would give us work with, basically.
You talk about pivoting a lot, and Chef Kevin, I'm going to go over to you. But with all these changes that have to be made, what kitchen practices can help you improve efficiency in the kitchen during these high order times?
So it's really starting right from the very beginning. I think number one, by being able to pare down your menu, and number one, it helps you with the food costs. Number two, it allows you to just get the same, great quality over and over again. If you do have 25 to 30 menu items available, you're not going to sell everything every day or in large quantities. So by moving and being more efficient and more nimble with your menu, you can then also look at how many people does it take. So again, using the technology, using our iProduction Manager, being able to build a menu, for example, where one person can execute 7, 8 of the 10 dishes on your menu, really allowed us to help people strategize. Again, as Ryan said, one day he has 3 cooks that are allowed in the kitchen, one day he's down to 2, then he's back up because he can open the patio, he can have 5. Well, if you're able to have one person dedicated to the entire takeout function in one piece of equipment or 2 pieces of equipment, that makes it so that even if you have to expand and contract for whether the patio is open or not, that one person isn't relying on the entire lineup. So we really spend a lot of time talking to our customers about that, because the one person can handle all of the delivery. That's a very good return on investment for that employee, and that menu is paying for itself. Then as you have to add more people, in a traditional kitchen, we're used to having the grill, the fryer, the flat top, somebody prepping in the back. Well, if you need 4 different people to execute the 10 items, well, you have to have that much staff on, and that wasn't always a luxury.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ryan can talk about, the scheduling side of things, having to expand and contract all year long. I can imagine having to deal with
Totally.
that.
Yeah, it's wild, like when you have a large kitchen where, like you said, you have so many different stations, especially hot and cold.
Mm-hmm.
Like my kitchen's massive, and our cold station is a well away from the hotline. So condensing our menu so we could fit it all on a hotline and just adjusting that, it was brutal at times. It was brutal.
We talk about
again, making sure people don't step on each other.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, right, exactly. Not condensing it too much.
We talk about pivoting. We talk about the changes that have to be made, the kitchen efficiencies that we have to go. Chef Daryl, that brings up, okay, what can I do? What's different? What's exciting? We've seen sort of menus contract, and we've seen people go to the more comfort foods, but are we getting to a point where there's, people are starting to expect something different? Is there some type of inspiration we can take? And, what do we see from future takeout options?
Yeah, what we really wanted to take a look at is testing those waters. And it was great to hear that Chef Ryan trying different items and throwing it against the wall and see if it sticks. Have different promos or limited time offers, right? Something like a warm up your winter, as we're going into it in Canada, is going to get those lovely 5 centimeters tomorrow, and bringing in 1 or 2 different styled items. And keeping that inventory as low as possible as well too, but trying to use them in 5 different ways. So maybe even bringing in a different spices, the spices that we use today, you know, that jerk seasoning or a shawarma seasoning, using them, you know, as I said, 5 different ways as a seasoning in a sauce and or gravy, in a cream or a dipping sauce on the side, into a vinaigrette, right? Into a glaze on top of a cooked piece of protein or some plant-based protein. Or, you know, really, and I'm going to be cheesy here, think outside the box and use it maybe in a dessert. It's only food, right? And if people are a little bit more open, I find now, from the discussions that we've been having, to trying different items. And if you still have that core, I'm not saying to throw away that core that you're good, really good at, or known for, but if you're trying to take that core and massage it a little bit and keep it topical, right? Keep it on the on-trend style flavors, and just, you know, have fun with it, right? And you know, use the abilities that we can through social media now. We can really promote different styles of cuisine, and you don't have to be within that restaurant or in that dining establishment at that point in time, right? You can showcase it and just be passionate. Shoot a quick video, right? Everyone has a computer that they walk around with in their pocket now, so they can watch and they can see that, and you know, taking the time to really, you know, like I said, think outside the box and develop some great food that's a bit different for folks.
Yeah, I think you know, you're right. Going through this, I know me personally, I'm more comfortable with experimenting with something different, something new on a menu, and I think, you know, I'm seeing a lot more of those where the whole concept of fail fast, right? If I'm going to do something, let's try it, and if it doesn't work, well, I can pull it off, right? And I think you're bang on. Where now I can. One of the things that we've seen from a marketing standpoint is more and more restaurants, and probably Chef Ryan, you could attest to this. You know, transparency has been key, right? How we do things, taking sort of, you know, a look behind the curtain and what's going on, and maybe piques the interest of the consumer a little bit.
Oh, for sure. That's something that I wrote down, is that having little specials and stuff like that and promoting it is, it's about not doing too much. Like, if you do too much, you can almost alienate people and they might get sick of seeing you posting like too much all the time. But definitely the biggest thing that we worked at as a group was to try and make sure that the customers still know that, like, we're trying to do something good here. We're not just trying to survive. We're still trying to push forward. To begin with, I think a lot of us, we kind of just had to put our defense up for a second and take stock of all of our inventory and be like, look, what can we use up here? We don't want to buy anymore. We like blah, 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 blah. But then moving forward, it was like, okay, well, we're past that now. Like, let's try and pique people's interest again. And like you said, specials and, you know, Halloween box, or, you know, our big thing was we've been doing Christmas game pies. Like, my nan made these game pies at Christmas and we pushed it. And my director, John, has been all over it. Like, he posts it more than I do. But it was huge,
That's
right? And now we have a huge following for that now, and lots of pre-orders, because we promoted we're doing something just for the specific time. It's only for the 10 days before Christmas. You can get your order in, give them a few weeks notice, and it works very well. And a really good point you brought up as well, Daryl, is trying not to order too many different things so you have lots of wastage. Really trying to figure out whether it's spices or protein or vegetables, trying to use everything. With, you know, if you don't sell it on this dish, try and sell it on this dish.
Yeah.
If like, the spices are a great example. Like, you can use spices in so many different things.
And I think, you know, Chef Kevin, you talked about efficiencies, and those are just some of the different ways Chef Daryl and Chef Ryan just talked about in terms of efficiencies. But I want to head over to you back in the kitchen. I'm going to ask us, the rest of the guys, if you don't mind taking off your cameras. You're lovely, but we want to talk to Chef Kevin, and let's see how those dishes look.
All right, so just about 30 minutes in the box. Again, I want to make sure that my dish still looks exactly the way, presents the way that I want. So my salmon dish, I still have bright, vibrant colors. I still have a hot box all the way through. And again, that couscous is going to travel, or that tabbouleh is going to travel very well. The dish is going to be warm. And again, there's no loss of integrity. If I was to cut open the salmon, maybe we'll pull over the cutting board when I do the chicken, the same thing. We can see that it's still going to be juicy and ready to go. Our next dish, again, our jerk chicken. I get that big, bold smell. This is exactly what all the chefs were really talking about here, is that when I open the box, I'm salivating, I'm getting the spice, I'm getting the flavor. I'll pack this one up for you, Roberto, I promise.
Perfect.
And again, I've got the chicken set and ready to go. And we're going to get into the burgers and the fries. So again, on this one, I've separated the bun from the patty. And of course, in delivery, the fries decided to shift over on top of the patty. That's the way that delivery really happens. But by keeping the bun and stuff separate, we all know that that bun, I can feel it already, it's not going to be the crispiest bun. It's already going to be soft. And now that this was all in with the fries, they're going to sweat a little bit. But the ones that I kept separate, they're still crispy. They're still set and ready to go. So this is going to be my lunch in about 10 minutes. We're going to have the crispy fries to snack on. But all of this, again, was really thought about, making sure that we have great dishes, attract flavor. I know in my house, there's a bit of a food fatigue right now. We're going every day. What do we want to do? We're not going to restaurants as often as we want. So when we do order delivery, we want to make sure that we're getting something that is fulfilling, that's something different. And again, that's been kind of the theme, is try something different. Try something different on your menu to entice the customers to get out and order something different. But again, the delivery time on this, we had 6 minutes to execute all of these dishes, whether it's burger and fries, a grilled salmon, or a grilled chicken. They're ready to go for your Uber Eats or your Skip the Dishes in 10 minutes. And that's what's really important, is being able to not bog down the line. And it was one person that can continue to cook all day, and that really lends to that efficiency using the iCombi Pro.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
I'm going to get ready for lunch here. These dishes once more. I'll plate these up. Now back over to you, Roberto. We'll bring the guys back on now.
Awesome. I got to say, everything does look delicious, and I'm hoping that I get a knock on my door in about half an hour, because I can get some lunch as well. But let's move into some Q&A. Once again, if you have any questions for anyone on the panel here, please drop them into the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as we can. But I have some really good ones starting here. In an age when people are ordering online, how do you, quote unquote, listen to your customer when all they do is swipe? What are some tips or some strategies that you've used in order to, quote unquote, listen to what they're asking for? Chef Ryan, you're right at the front lines as well. Let's start with you. Oh, I think your mic's off.
There we go. My first day, apparently. It's really tough, especially competing as a small, I know we're a big company, but as a smaller restaurant in the grand scheme of the takeout world. For us, a big thing that we try to do to compete with all the swiping is having good pictures of our food. A lot of people eat with their eyes online and trying to draw the attention maybe from that. Normally with all the big guys there in the top, if you're on Uber or Skip or whatever, you go through the top, even if you're right next to our building, we've tested this, we'll still be 20th in the line of things of people going down, right? So really just social media is a huge one, like tagging Uber, and Uber actually did an amazing thing in the summer, or the end of the summer, when we worked with local suppliers. So always looking for new avenues to try and help them promote us as well. They did this thing where if we supported local suppliers, they would give us a kickback, and then they would promote it that we're using local food, which I mean we do anyway, so it was kind of a win-win. But it's really tough. It's really tough. Keeping on the social media is huge. Just like for us as well, like with our pie shop, we created an extra account, which meant we don't want to flood everyone's social media with what's available on the apps, but we tried to delicately do that and have both myself, Liberty Commons, and the Common Pie Shop, there's 3 ways to promote that to people, and they may not see it when they're swiping, but they may see it when they're going through their Instagram feeds. So that's kind of how we worked around that as much as possible. We're still trying to learn. It's very tough.
Everyone's still learning. Chef Daryl, how does that affect you? When you're hearing from clients or customers, or all, how does it help you, or what can you do to listen?
Yeah, it's being proactive and not reactive. To be honest with you, Roberto, we in some instances we do hear from our customer base, and in some cases we don't. They're underwater. They're busy, as Chef has alluded to. They're on the front lines. They're serving food. They're having to get this out. They're having to think outside the box. So as a producer, what we try to do is come to them with ideas, with concise, styled processes and concepts, right? Like we take that time at Shalit to really, like I stated, be proactive and not reactive, and give them solutions to those problems, right? As chefs by trade within the company, we know what folks need, or we think we do, as that changes day to day, and trying to listen to those trends out in the marketplace, but then try to help our customers with the different styled products that can get them across the finish line.
For sure. And Chef Kevin, we talk about solutions, and you've shown us a few of them there as well. How do you get help as a chef on the front lines?
So for us, it's important for our customers, those are the users of the equipment, it's being able to help them adapt. So whether they're calling the chef line and saying, hey, I want to implement this, we have great one-to-one relationships, and then also doing that partnership, working with guys like Shalit and knowing their product line and being able to make those connections of what you can do with the equipment, with the different food partners to quickly adapt your menu. We spend a lot of time, whether it's in our test kitchen, somebody needs some quick development help, I can buy chicken, I can give you a quick recipe or a quick how-to, and then they're easily able to plug it in and put it on their units right away. And so that's been a lot of kind of us, hey, Kevin, I want to do this. How can I do it? And being able to give them a quick cooking solution, whether it's braising overnight, whether it's slow cooking, again, speeding up that production by cooking overnight, not tying up the equipment during the day. Sometimes it's just a quick call like that and just giving them 1 or 2 pointers on how to get the result they're looking for.
Nope, that's awesome. Some really great questions coming in here. Sorry. From a trend perspective, have you seen any changes in family-sized meals versus individual plates, or even meal kits for finishing at home to yield better results? Have you seen any of those trends pick up at all?
For sure. And they've also changed with the guidelines constantly changing. To begin with, we actually found that people were ordering stuff for their family, like bigger, maybe like for 4, for 6, for 4, for 6. And then during the summertime when the patios were open, we went more back to like individual. But with this second lockdown and cases being where they're at, we've definitely found that people seem to be staying at home way more, and it's more of a for 2, especially at our pub anyway. Like with the pie shop, you get lots of people buying, solo people buying a bunch of single pies, because we do them for 1 or for 2. So, you can kind of choose what you want. But for us, the do it at home didn't really work very well. However, it doesn't mean it doesn't work well, because our other restaurants like Canoe have been doing these beef Wellingtons that you cook at home, and it all comes. And I mean, it's pretty remarkable when it's cooked in the Rationale, but even still, if you cook it in your convection oven at home, like it's an amazing product, and people are loving that. Like, they weren't to begin with, they wanted like tasting menu. Like, we were shocked actually that people were very into the tasting menu at home, but this time round, they really do enjoy the cooking at home. I mean, I guess our pies is the biggest thing that people cook at home, so we are quite successful really when I think about it. But yeah, definitely it's gone down in my experience from being 4 people or for 6 people or whatever, and it's more like 2 and 3 or 1 and 2. Like, it's a lot different, the second wave.
Interesting. When it comes to takeout containers, or sorry, Chef Daryl, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm just going to dive in quickly. Chef, I'm so happy you brought up that about the beef wellies. They look stunning.
Yeah,
Absolutely
ridiculous.
stunning. Yeah, and also just to let you know, we've seen a large increase in meal kits. Right, we do a fair amount of items within that meal kit style, be it our broth concentrates in a 9.6 gram 1 cup portion. So just really clean, no GMO, no gluten, truly natural style broth that you can get to elevate those dishes. And then there are seasonings as well. So the broth or the meal kit business is still thriving in our world.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm tired of cooking the same stuff I know. I always want to try something different anyway. So it's fun to get, with the wife and just experiment something new in the kitchen. So I hear it. I agree. We talked about takeout. We talked about, how long it takes food to travel. Chef Kevin, I'm going to start with you. Any recommendations on, what food containers work best? Do you have to have a mix? Like, what have you experimented with or saw?
I think, there's so many different options available. A lot of people even want to get into something that maybe they can put back into their oven. So, you see dual ovenable or getting into aluminum foil. Again, if you want to have that dish that you can bake at home, that's an option. At the end of the day, there's so many varieties out there. And Ryan, pointed out, not always going with plastic, not having something that has to be into the garbage, everything. So if you can get with a compostable or a recyclable dish, that's obviously the way that we want to lead. But again, you're going to have a need. If you're doing sauce-based dishes, you're going to have certain containers that really need that tight-fitting lid. So I think the biggest thing is the cost of it. And maybe Ryan can touch on it a little bit more, but I don't think anybody really understood how much disposables cost. And then where do you have to put them? And I know that we've done a lot of testing. I know I sell up all my leftovers every day for my staff here. I have to have disposables, and it's one of those things where they take up space and they cost money. So we really had to look at what's the most cost effective, what is the easiest to use or can be used for multi-purpose. So it's not just one container for one dish. Ryan, you'd probably agree to that, so that you're not having.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like truly, like you said, the cost of takeout materials is pretty astronomical when you look at it at the end of the summer. And it's quite expensive. So finding stuff that you can use that you don't have to use too much of is also another thing to be cognizant of. But the very successful for us has been the tin foil actually recently with some of our dishes, all sandwiches and stuff like that. We serve in the I forget what the brand is now, but the ones that are all decomposable. The salads are served in these. They look like amazing plastic balls, but they're like a corn based. I don't know exactly what it is, but they're amazing. Yeah, exactly. So it's a huge decision because you're trying to be responsible, but you also need to get it the best it can be, right? So.
I think people, when you're building a menu, we always think of the food cost, the labor cost that goes into it, but this is an extra 50 cents to $1 in some cases per plate that, we're still paying for the labor, we're still paying for the food cost, we're still paying for the lights to be on. And now when you're building out your cost, you also have to factor in how much does this add to the plate? And that's something that, all owners have to be aware of.
And even if you can find it. Right?
Yeah.
Even if you can find materials
full
as
money
well too.
for what you're buying. That's for what you're selling. You have to give it a good portion of it to Uber and everybody. So it becomes even more expensive.
Let's talk about packaging real quick and what goes in the box. Chef Kevin, you talked about packaging hot versus cold together, separate. Some best practices there, and then we'll go around the screen here.
Absolutely. There's going to be things, your whole meal, if you can do your chicken, rice, grains, absolutely put them together. But something by keeping that bun separate, keeping those cold things together. Again, we don't want to make too many bags, but again, even separating the bags, it's something that was always taught to us at an early age in restaurants. If you're packing takeout, don't have the Caesar salad sitting underneath the takeout chicken. But again, it's always making sure that, we separate. But there's a lot of things that we don't think of traditionally, like separating the bun. We want that complete burger. I think at this point, people are okay assembling their burger together at home. if it's going to give them a better quality, if the burger's not going to be soggy, if the fries are on the side. So it really comes down to just trying to get that best quality. And again, it comes back to that 30 minutes. What does it look like 30 minutes from now? And really put everything in the box, start the stopwatch, grade it, taste it. And if it's not working, try something else.
Chef Ryan, Chef Daryl, or did Chef Kevin just cover
I like to. No, great points by Chef for sure. But I like to ensure that to build on Kevin's point is to really think about the menu items and the garnish specifically, right? So if it has that travel time, if it's going to be bounced around a bit, right, ensuring that you're not spending all that extra money on little frilly microgreens, right? That the customer is truly not it's not going to add value at that point in time. Having items that can elevate the meal is so much more important, truthfully, right? Or being a sauce, being a topical, being something different, but just really be laser focused on that garnish, right? And using stuff that's maybe a bit heartier.
We're not building high plates anymore, right, Jeff?
For
Everything
sure.
is flat now. There's nothing that's built up high like the old.
So let me get into.
I was just saying, you guys nailed it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Chef.
What, for each one of you, what is the most valuable piece of new technology, given the situation that we're in right now, that is beneficial to you? And if I'm a restaurant operator and or chef and I have to invest in it, what is that?
Is this a rationale plug? Because clearly,
I'm going to be biased on this one, so I'll let you guys go first, and I'll.
No, but seriously though, rationale is like an amazing. For me. Without it, like there's so many things we do it from cooking our chickens and our roasts and vegetables and maybe like overnight, maybe slow cooking stocks. It's huge for us. I mean, just an immersion circulator as well, like a water bath, is very big for us during service. Like we circulate, we keep our chickens and ribs at a warm temperature in there. It keeps the moisture in better than if you keep it in a hot box. The hot box tends to dry it out a little bit. So using the rationale to cook it and then using the water bath and then finishing it over the wood grill really just helps you keep that consistency. But I mean, the rationale is great. The water bath's probably a little bit cheaper, but those two things, without those right now, would be tough to get by in this time, because like you said, you got 6 minutes, 10 minutes maybe to get the food up and down. I mean, a burger you can get done, but a half jerk chicken or some ribs or some brisket, but maybe a vacuum pack machine. That's also a huge piece of equipment that we constantly have to use for keeping things as fresh as possible and using obviously the immersion circulator. So yeah.
Those are your 3-4 go-tos.
For sure. Like kitchens would not be the way they are today without them. Like they really wouldn't. We would not be able to achieve what we achieve. Like even when I started in kitchens 20 years ago, just under 20 years, like it was a very different place. It was a very different place. And like if you look at it now, what we're able to achieve in services and cooking food fresh to order, but faster, and still getting that same end product if you had just cooked it from scratch, like when the order came in, those are definitely my 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. And like preparation wise, the rationale is huge. It's even if you just take out all of the amazing things it does, it's the best oven out there. Like, come on, it's just an amazing oven. You ever cooked Yorkshire puddings in a rationale? They're the best Yorkshire puddings in the world.
I got a process.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. Roberto, you're not getting lunch. It's going right to Ryan now. Send it across the pond.
I just want a rationale for home. That's what I want. I'm just trying to get
it. Okay. Daryl, I'm biased, so I'll touch on it last. Go ahead, Daryl.
Okay, thanks, Chef. I do agree with everything Chef Ryan said about the rational units as well, but I'm going to dive in on a little something different. We don't have as many folks in our restaurants, in our dining halls, in our banquet halls any longer. The greatest piece of technology right now that we have is the feedback that we can get from social media. I'll be honest with you, from blog posts, from getting that information back. We don't have that ability to touch the table any longer, going out, having those conversations. So be it positive or negative, right? As we all have different views on social media, and you know, it can bring positive or negatives. But that's what I would say is the greatest piece of technology to really help us through to understand what people are enjoying, not enjoying, and what we can truly achieve better as chefs and culinary experts. We strive for that every day. That's been driven into us since a very early age. As Chef just said, 20 years within a pro kitchen, and I know Chef Kevin's the same as myself, and a long time working within there, and that those personal relationships and customers, that face-to-face interactions, really different. So that's what I would say is the greatest piece of technology.
Oh, that's awesome. Feedback is a gift, they say, for sure. And Chef Kevin, do I need to guess where you're going to go?
Oh, Roberto, you're on mute.
Oh,
I lost you. Sorry. Go ahead.
I said, and do I need to guess where you're going to go?
Sorry, I lost my connection.
Nope. Looks like.
Oh, there you go. All right. I almost lost you there. And for me, I'm standing in the Rational Kitchen, so I'll plug it for a second here. Obviously, there's the Icon Pro, both chefs we're speaking of, as well. The new one that Ryan's going to come see when he gets back is the new Ivario Pro. This is our new tilt skillet steam kettle. This is Rational's version of that. So I did the burgers in it today. This is now your slow cooker, all your soup stocks and everything else. But again, you can see it online. Go to our website. We do demos online every time. So that's where you can find out the most about it. So I'm not going to sit here and promote Rational all afternoon.
Perfect. Now, we just got a couple minutes left, and I think there's just a couple more questions I want to get to before we close out. The first one is, we've seen the trend of smaller menus continue to happen. In a post-pandemic world, do you see that here to stay?
Yes, I truly do. It's going to continue with that focus, right? It's going to continue with what can we have a lower inventory and multi-use as best as possible. It's going to keep people on track, right? You think sometimes that Roadhouse styled menu that's like 4 to 5 pages long. That's just opening and opening and opening. And I don't think it's going to be feasible any longer. Food service is going to look a very different within a year to year and a half.
Chef Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially the immediate future. It would be foolish to go back to having these humongous menus. This year has proven that something can just happen like that, right? So the biggest learning from that has to be for chefs, especially, is to narrow it down a little bit. Like, did you really need to have that extra 10 dishes? Did you need to have those extra 50 spices on your spice shelf, or could you speak to Daryl and get a shawarma spice? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's going to be very different. I mean, I've always admired, I love going to Montreal, and Montreal's restaurants tend to have a lot smaller menus than Toronto. And you see there's less staff in the kitchen. They're smaller kitchens. It doesn't take as much to achieve what you want to achieve when you're doing a smaller menu of like your best items, rather than maybe chucking the extra 10 on because they get ordered now and again. Or they're just a personal favorite of yours. That's a huge one that you have to separate yourself from sometimes, right? Like, I love prawn cocktail, but not everyone loves prawn cocktail, so it's got to come off the menu because it doesn't sell. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that there'll be smaller menus for a while.
And Chef Kevin?
Yeah, I see this going away. I think people are really, winning right now with doing their greatest hits by having those 10 or 15 items that are, really going out the door, whether it's, for takeout or in-person dining. And it allows them to manage their food costs as well. The biggest thing right now is any cost that you can control. Both chefs talked about, multiple usages. You know what? That's exactly what you want to be able to. You don't want to have an obscure sauce, spice, or anything else sitting collecting dust. It isn't the way that it's going to be moving forward here. But I think it also allows you the freedom. If you have 10 or 15 really good items, then there's always the option for features. But when you had 25 to 40 items and then a feature sheet with 10 items, it was so much of a read. As Daryl said, that Roadhouse menu was tough. So I think it's here to stay.
All right, last question. This goes to you, Chef Kevin, before we wrap it up for today. But we talk about thinking outside the box, outside the delivery box. And you touched on it earlier, which was ghost kitchens and the shift that we've seen to ghost kitchens and more people doing it, especially as we've seen the growth in takeout and delivery happen. Do you have any advice for traditional operators, owners who are looking to pivot into a ghost kitchen model?
So ghost kitchen model, we can interpret it a couple different ways. What I really, it's really offering more than one brand out of the same kitchen. And, the pie shop is a great example. It didn't take Brian's team much to add it. Okay, I won't say it didn't take much. It's still a lot of work to come up with it. But within the same four walls, he's now running a pie shop and takeout. And if there's a next flavor, if you wanted to do strictly barbecue takeout, it's really kind of picking those items. And I think keeping that menu lean and mean. And that's what we've seen a lot of people is, if they're going to go with a ghost kitchen, have 4 or 5 different, menu options out of each brand. It's 5 or 6 from one style of cuisine, 5, 6, 10 at the most out of each cuisine, so that it can still be executed in that footprint. But it allows more food and more options to go out the back door without necessarily having that sit-down restaurant. And in the future, this is a great proving ground. If you've got a strong brand and people like the flavors, maybe that in the future can be your next kiosk, pop-up, or standalone restaurant. But for now, it gives people a lot of opportunity to start testing the waters. If pies are the way to go for you guys, and that's an expansion plan, this is a great proving ground for it because you had the space, you had the kitchen availability, and now pie shops in the west side where Daryl and I are would be fantastic.
Everyone loves pies. Come on.
Exactly.
For sure. They're the best.
We're just past the top of the hour, gentlemen. I just want to say thank you so much to each one of you for your time. On the screen is the contact information if you'd like to get in touch with any of those who are speaking today. If we didn't get to your question, we apologize. We'll definitely get those questions over to the team to see if they can follow up directly. And if you have any more, again, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at Restaurants Canada. We'll be sure to get you some of the answers that you'd be looking for. So once again, to the three of you, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge and spending some time with us today. To each and every one of you who tuned in and take some time out of your day. Hopefully this was beneficial learning. You will get a link to the recording, so please don't be afraid to share this with your friends, families, colleagues, staff, and so on and so forth. I just want to say thank you to everyone and stay safe out there. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you all.
Be well.